Welcome to the Prepare Like a Pro podcast. Every week I host live chats via our YouTube channel with leaders in the AFL and high performance industries. Join me live every Sunday at 6 p.m. where I debrief the recent chats and announce the upcoming guests. We drop an inspiring and educational episode every Monday. If you like the show, please follow us on your favourite podcast app. This week on the show we have Meg Hutchins, a former AFLW player and current captain of the VFL W Hawthorn Football Club. Meg is also a football coach and gym owner. Let's get into today's episode.
Hello.
Hey, how you going?
Going well, mate. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me. This is very technologically advanced for me.
Yeah, it's a bit different what I'm doing, but I feel like it keeps it all open and honest, you know, classic Hawthorn mode.
Love that, and I love the beanie. Done well.
Yeah, that's just me keeping warm, but I'll go. The Hawks happen to play tonight, so good timing.
Absolutely.
Let's dive straight into it, Meg. Take it back to the beginning. At what age did you start playing the game, and when did you discover you had a passion for taking it seriously and wanting to play at the highest level?
Yeah, look, as with probably a lot of people, I started playing as a little tacker, so very long time ago. But yeah, I was a young little kid and the only girl in the whole competition.
Yeah, right. So, what comp was that?
I'm not 100% sure. It's probably what is now known as the Yarra Junior Footy League, but
yep.
So I played for the Q Juniors, which was just down the road from where I lived with a lot of school friends. But yeah, only girl on the comp there, and played all the way through basically until the rules at Football Victoria at that stage said that I couldn't play any longer. So yeah, pretty much stopped playing then and stopped playing for about 8 or 10 years.
Wow.
There was no real pathway. So my passion was there, but there was no pathway for me to play.
So what age did you have to stop?
Oh, look, probably about 12, I reckon. Yeah.
Okay.
About 12. So so I just went off and did other things and played other sports. Ran water for my brother's footy team, so that was my involvement in football. So yeah, I did that, and then probably around about 2021, I started playing senior footy again. So started playing for who was then called the Deakin Devils in the Victorian Women's Football League, and that was in 2003. Was my first year of senior footy.
Right. And how did you get your body right with that gap, from a 12-year-old to 21? I mean, you're still young at 21, but, you're in the adult game there. You can't just play games and recover and play another game like 2 days later, like a 12-year-old can. How did you...
No.
were you staying active? Like, was it just a matter of getting fit in pre-season? Take us through.
Yeah. It was... Well, I was a sort of sport head, really. Any sport that I could be involved in whilst I wasn't playing football, I played. So, I played hockey at school and basketball. I got heavily involved in rowing, so probably more so through my senior years when I was at school. So that sort of taught me a lot about work ethic and sort of started me in terms of this whole strength and conditioning, and that was sort of my first experience, really, of detailed strength and conditioning stuff. So, got involved in that, and that sort of prepared me from a physical point of view and a skills in terms of work ethic point of view to then start playing footy. But yeah, it was, when we first started playing football at that time, we didn't have strength and conditioning coaches. We didn't have anything really. It was our head coach that was prescribing all of our fitness stuff, and he would excuse me for saying it, but he wouldn't have much of an idea about any form of strength and conditioning training whatsoever. So it was your traditional, 10-100s and off you went.
Run a lap. Yep. And so 8 years where you couldn't play, and then as soon as the game was back, you jumped in, or was there a couple of years where the game was back but you weren't playing, you were doing rugby, rowing and hockey?
Yeah, pretty much as soon as footy was, as soon as I realised footy was back for me, I was all in. So
right,
I was, as a little kid, it was my big true passion really. So as soon as I could get into it, I could throw myself in. So I still stayed involved from a rowing point of view, but then I sort of just moved away from that and probably enjoyed my sleep-ins a bit more.
Yeah, fair enough. And how did the game come back to Victoria? How did women get back to playing footy at that time? Was there like a petition? Was there a lot of noise? Was it just something that just weighed in numbers that the game started up again? Take us through that time.
Well, no, the game had been so the Victorian Women's Football League VWFL had been going before I sort of came back to footy. It had been going for probably about 10 to 15 years, from what I understand, but from 2003 onwards, it sort of gradually started building from, the committee that ran the VWFL, all volunteers, but all players and all administrators, but they sort of really started building and generating. And Debbie Lee herself was involved at Melbourne Footy Club at that point in time. So she got the backing of the Melbourne Footy Club and then also the Western Bulldogs to then start, from a sponsorship point of view, get involved in women's football. So that's where it sort of started gradually building. But yeah, the rallying from our pioneers and our your Debbie Lees of the world, women's football wouldn't be where it is right now without the pushing of her and the driving of that from her and a lot of many other amazing women.
Yeah, fantastic. And so 21, you're playing at Deakin. At what point did you recognise that you had a talent for the game and that you wanted to take it to the next level?
Well, my first year of footy, I played in the Country v Metro game, so I was selected in the Vic Metro team, and we sort of it was very early on, but that was sort of, I think it was almost the first women's football game that was played on the MCG, so that was pretty exciting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so and then my second year of football, so that year I won the best first year player for the competition, and then the next year, lucky enough to get selected in the state team, and then we went on and won the national championships, and I did a couple of things okay that year and won the league BNF, and so that probably to me sort of showed myself that I was capable of doing a few good things on the field. So needed to make sure that I backed it up year to year.
Yeah. And did that change your enjoyment of the game? Like, where you're maybe taking a little bit more seriously, there might be a little bit more expectation, a bit more pressure, or did you still have as much fun of the game like you were, like a kid out there still playing?
Yeah, no, I still thoroughly enjoyed the game as much as I had when I was a kid. Obviously, the little bit more pressure came from a performance point of view. I guess there was probably a little bit more attention that was directed towards your way, but I mean that still didn't sway my enjoyment of it. I mean, for female footballers for so long, and I mean it is really still the case, is that we just play footy for the fun of it. There was never any pay or any accolades really external to within the league or clubs that sort of drove us. It was more so you have to have fun and you have to enjoy yourself because that's all there is really. So and that's always something that I've carried on through 18, 19 odd years, is that you always have to find the fun in whatever you do, particularly football, because the pay may or may not be there. So what is the why for participating in and being involved?
Yeah, awesome. That's a great philosophy for developing footballers to tune in on and note down. So you're playing at Deakin. You mentioned you're having a great year. Where did you go from Deakin to Collingwood? Was it Deakin straight to Collingwood, or was there another team involved?
Yeah, it was. So the Deakin Devils became the Eastern Devils, and we sort of played along at local footy for a number of years, and then. Yeah, as I mentioned before, Debbie Lee sort of started driving this exhibition series that started. So, Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs got on board, and there was an exhibition series that started in 2013. So it was a couple of games a year where that happened. We got to play on some amazing grounds and represent actual AFL teams in Melbourne and the Bulldogs, which was incredible. And then we played our first broadcast game, which was fantastic for the, it was an exhibition, but exhibition of women's football, and actually put that in front of the eyes of people.
Mm.
And then from there, the announcement that came that the AFLW was going to start well, initially it was 2020, but they brought it forward to 2017, and I kind of thought, well, why not Collingwood to have a team? And I mean, I grew up barracking for Collingwood and wanted to get involved in that sort of capacity. So yeah, I just wrote an email to just write an email to the then CEO Gary Pert and said, look, I think Collingwood needs to have a team in the inaugural year of AFLW, and I'd like to help them get that team. So long story short, I ended up getting a job at Collingwood, putting the whole thing together, and then playing there. So
Wow.
it was a pretty whirlwind couple of months, that's for sure. But it was a pretty incredible experience. And as I said, I grew up barracking for the Pies, and to be able to actually represent the club was an amazing experience. And it was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, what a story. That's super inspiring. So what got you to write the email? You just thought, let's put it out there and see what comes of it? Yeah,
look, it was probably a little bit of pressuring from my mum and sister and partner. They sort of said, look, strike while the iron's hot, and why not? Like, what's there to lose in terms of writing a letter and actually just saying, hey, I want to be involved. So, they sort of backed me in to do it and suggested it was going to be a good idea. And so I pressed send, and I said, well, that's probably the philosophy. It's like, well, what's there to lose? If the worst that could happen is I don't get a reply at all, and I could get a no, but at least I flagged the intention and the desire to want to help. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you started working there first before being drafted. It was a managerial role, was it?
Yeah. So they put me on as a football operations manager. So pretty much I was the only employee at the club that was responsible for putting the whole women's team and program together. So that was pretty daunting, pretty stressful. But it was an incredible experience, and a lot of great learnings from it for me professionally. And it was a big task in terms of also educating the club and educating people within the club in terms of what women's football is all about, and this is what female footballers need from a performance and club point of view. So it was a big task, but it was a really, really enjoyable one at the same time.
So I imagine the first step would be get a coach, and then from there get players and start. Like, where do you start with a beast like that? Creating a club, that's a big thing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It was get a coach, and then get a group of coaches. I mean, we didn't really have a massive budget at all. In terms of, I couldn't put a figure on, but it wasn't much. So how am I supposed to resource this program to best set it up? That's probably the most difficult thing. It was, get a coach, but then who's next? Do I need to get a recruitment person? Do I need to get someone in charge of just getting property? I was a property manager as well at the time, and football operations and everything else. So it was, it was
list
pretty challenging.
And I can imagine. You'd pick up a big growth period, I can imagine. You're now running a business yourself with bodyfit while playing, and I imagine you'd learn to delegate a lot of leadership qualities. Take us through what was the biggest challenge of that role, and what did you enjoy about it as well?
Yeah, it's probably taught me that it's okay to ask for help. That's probably the main thing. I kind of felt at the time I was sort of responsible for doing everything, and I kind of felt that at the time. I felt that if I was to ask for help, it showed that I was not capable of doing my job, which is totally not the way that it goes. So that was a massive learning for me, is that actually, if you don't know something, if you need assistance with something in particular, it's not sort of in your area of strength, then actually go to someone that actually is very good at that as well. So that was a huge learning for me. is that, ask for help if you need help and learn by that process and learn off that person.
Mm. Yeah, okay. And then when did the season start, and how did you go from basically creating the club to then being drafted and being a player in the same year as well? Like, that's a
it was a very short amount of time. I think the announcement happened in August or thereabouts in terms of what was happening, and then the season started in March or February. So it all sort of blurs into a lot of different things, but it was a start profiling lists, start building a club, start getting organised in terms of uniforms, what change room, where are they going to go, and everything like that. So it was a short turnaround, definitely. The list build mechanism was any person or individual that was currently associated with a club could be selected as I think they called it a priority selection. So the club wasn't my decision. I'll put it out here. It wasn't my decision to draft myself. But the clubs used that list build mechanism to put me onto the list. That's how Karen Paxman became a member of Melbourne, as an example. So if you had an association or an employed by that particular club, then that was the way to get onto the list. So luckily for me, I didn't have to sit through a draft day and bite my nails, hope that I'd get selected.
Yeah. And how did you find playing at that level? What was the step up like, and how did you guys go that year as well?
Yeah, the step up was from the exhibition series and national carnivals, which had been the first and the most highest I'd reached in terms of playing. The main thing for me was the speed of the game. That was probably the biggest one. So that was probably the biggest step. They removed 2 players, so we ended up playing with 16 instead of 18 on the field. So how you best utilise those 16 players and how the speed of the game actually goes. Everyone really that was playing was the best of the best in their state. So every week he came up against some incredible players, and it was really, really challenging. So we didn't go as great as we wanted to that year. But, I think that first year it was very much about how quickly a team was able to click on field was the main thing. So we didn't quite have that year, but it was an incredible year.
Yeah. And who have been at this point in your career, so you've got drafted and you're playing, and you're fulfilling your dream, especially playing for the team that you grew up going for. Who were some strong influences and mentors, if you like, at that point, or getting to you to that point, I guess?
There's probably a number of people, but more so, I mean, one person in particular who influenced the way that I sort of went about my football was, one of my really, really good friends now. She was my captain at the Eastern Devils, Lou Watton. So, she probably more so was an influence from a standards point of view. She really set standards for us at the club and showed a lot of us what work rate and work ethic was all about. So it was fantastic to be led by her and to be surrounded by her and have her as a friend to watch and learn off. So there's a number of people who had influenced what I to that point. A lot of coaches I had through the exhibition series, Michelle Cowan, Craig Starcevich, and just to name a few, their ability to coach me how to play, the role that I played at that time was really, really great as well. And they sort of showed great faith in what I was able to do. So, I sort of just pick and choose. There's no sort of one main influence as such to that point in time. A lot of different people had a real influence on how I developed.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this short break to explain our most popular coaching program. I want to introduce you to Prepare Like a Pro Individualized. You'll train like a true professional with an intelligently designed program. We ensure everything is covered to optimally prepare yourself for game day. This premium package is for those that want a personal coach in their corner. The individualisation starts with an in-depth questionnaire to really understand your goals and where you need support. Your coach will then tailor your program to suit around your school, work and sporting schedule. We will derive a Get Better plan, the GBP, which will be a step-by-step progression to help you achieve your dreams of elite performance. The GPP program takes a holistic approach. We focus on individualised running and gym work to help make you the strongest and fastest version of you, as well as a comprehensive lifestyle coaching around nutrition, sleep and stress management. We use objective measures such as GPS, your technique footage and gym loads to provide you with progress reports. You'll be learning from our presentations, taking food diaries, tracking your sleep and learning how to nail your recovery. Our multifaceted approach aims to build you into the best athlete you can be, allowing you to change direction quicker, jump higher, run faster and repeat high intensity efforts for longer. Overall, you'll become more focused on the field and resilient to injury. Ultimately, if you want to prepare like a pro, this is the package for you. Head to our Inquire Now page and we will contact you today.
And you're now a coach as well, working in the private sector with footballers. What would be some key messages that you are often telling, or educating developing footballers? I think your way.
I think the main thing is that you have to recognise and appreciate what your strengths are and actually own them. I think that's really, really good. I think a lot of footballers tend to identify and always think about their weaknesses and be like, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this. Well, actually, what are you actually really good at? And make that a real weapon. One of my coaches always called that your one wood. Make that your absolute weapon and make that into the best that it can possibly be. Yes, you need to make sure you focus on and develop and make your weaknesses your strengths as well. That's a really, really important thing. But appreciate it and actually really make sure you've got a really, really good weapon and develop that the best you can, because that's also going to make you stand out too. So whether or not it's your kicking ability, whether or not it's your marking ability, your ground balls, make them just the best they could possibly be. But then, I think the really other important thing is be really competent on both sides of your body. For me, as a young player and even as an old player going all the way through, I never really worked on my left side of my body until the last sort of 5 to 6 or so years of playing football. Until I got involved in sort of AFLW and exhibition series as well. That was sort of the next step for me, is actually, okay, I need to actually make this better, and how am I going to make myself better as well? So I think that's a big thing, is that make sure you're really comfortable going on both sides.
Yeah, and I can imagine that would make it a lot easier at the higher level the earlier you start. Because the higher level you're playing, the harder it is.
The higher up you get in terms of football, the faster the game gets, and you need to have the ability. If you're getting out of a situation, you need to be able to bail yourself out. And I do call sometimes that opposite foot a bailout kick sometimes, but you got to be able to be confident to be able to do that as well. So, immediately as soon as you turn yourself onto your preferred foot, you turn yourself into trouble. So you got to be able to actually get yourself out of trouble on the opposite side.
Yeah, similar sort of topic of discussion, but you've played with a lot of high-level footballers and great teams. What are some common, doesn't have to be just physical attributes and skill attributes, but even the mental side as well, that you've noticed and taken into your game?
I think the real big thing, particularly for female footballers, is that ability and confidence to get a contested ball, whether or not it's in a marking situation or in a ground ball situation. That's probably the biggest thing for me, is that stands out from a performance point of view. You got to be able to, you got a 50-50 ball, you have to make it into a 60-40 or a 70-30 or 100% your way. So that's probably the thing that stands out to me in terms of the better players, I guess, and the ones that set the standards are the ones that actually see a situation that could be 50-50 and they make it into something more in their favour. So, the contested marking situations and the contested ball on the ground, they're a real big one.
And for young footballers that are listening that want to improve that area, maybe they're not winning all their contested balls on game day, what are some tips and tricks, I guess, that they can do to improve that area of their game?
It's a lot of practice. It really is a lot of practice. And it's just repetitive efforts with the ball on the ground, particularly for ground balls. But also from a physical preparation sort of side of things, you need to make sure you're really strong through your hips and your legs as well, to be able to hold a reasonably good and deep squat as well. I think the ground ball very much is a squat. It's not a hip hinge. I mean, yes, you got a hip hinge like where you're bending over, but it is actually a squat. And once they get confident and strong in that position in particular, that's what makes them very, very strong when it comes to a ground ball situation. So, strength through the hips and a nice deep squat and have that mobility as well. That's a really, really big key thing.
Yeah, nice. That's a couple of really good points there. So, obviously practicing the skill that you want to get better at. And would you have, is that with a mate at the end, grab a bag and doing another mate to do the ground balls and just doing it, like you said, over and over and over again? What sort of cues are you focusing on with the ground ball? And what sort of, when you pick it up, what are you doing with it?
It is repetitive, and sometimes you can do a lot of things just by yourself in terms of actually just practicing the mechanism as to how to pick the ball up. For me, it's all about actually being centered over the ball, not sort of leaning over to pick it up, because you tend to be pretty unbalanced. So actually be really quite balanced in where you pick the ball up. So for me, it's actually you kind of step over the ball with that front foot and then get yourself down nice and low, so you're actually completely over it. That's also from a strength point of view and ball protection point of view. If you're completely over the football, then you tend not to be knocked off it and have a nice wide stance with your legs. So that's probably the biggest key, is that, if you're coming in from the side or, you turn your body and then you step 1 foot over, squat down and actually pick the ball up. That's probably the big one. And then you're in a really, really strong position once you do win the football with into a deep squat to actually drive out of that from a power point of view, to actually get out and drive away from that contest too. So particularly, as I said, as a comparison between the squat or the bent over, you're not in a strong position to drive out of that position if you're just bending over to pick the ball up. If you're squatting over the ball and actually really driving away, then you're in a really good position to actually go in a lot of different directions too from a squat. Yeah,
nice. The strength and conditioning, you mentioned earlier how coaches were doing it back at Deakin. At what point did strength and conditioning coaches come into the game? And in that area, how have you seen that progress? When were you first exposed to it?
Yeah, it's I was reflecting on that today, actually. I don't really feel like I was exposed to really pure strength and conditioning training until, it was early in the 2010s, I think. Once we actually started doing, a little bit higher level from a state football point of view, but then we had state academies. We actually had a strength and conditioning coach who would give us programs, strength programs, running programs, everything like that, to actually try and, educate a lot of the players first and foremost, but then also develop them from a physical point of view. So that was probably my first exposure to it from a football point of view. Yes, I'd had that from when I was involved in rowing, from an extent, from rowing myself, but also coaching, but then actually doing it from a football point of view. It wasn't really until, 2012, 2013 really, where I had that experience with a real strength and conditioning coach. And then from there, it sort of built into now. Yeah, okay.
And then what about the other areas of preparation, whether it be sports psychologists, dietitians, assistant coaches, line coaches? When did the game really start to change, where there was a bit more of a support football department?
Yeah, it's probably around about that time as well, I think. Is that, the standards and the professionalism of women's football really started picking up. as I said, around about that sort of 2012, 2013 time when we're thinking like these exhibition series were starting to come up, a little bit more higher level and a lot more professional when it came to representing your state at the national carnival as well. So we had nutritionists and access to, but we didn't have a specific club psych or anything like that. But it was access to that. So it was around about then, and then what I'm experiencing obviously now at Hawthorn is something I'd never experienced and never dreamt of really. Way back then. So it's pretty cool. But having even just line coaches at exhibition series level. So 2014 onwards, that was incredible.
And take us through what Hawthorn now has as a support team.
Oh well, everything you could wish for as a player, really. You got your general manager of VFL and VFLW. You've got your football operations manager. You've got then football operations assistant that does a lot of the admin and property. Then we've got a team dietitian, a team psych, head coach, line coaches, development coaches, strength and conditioning coaches. We've now also got all our data tracking, GPS, everything like that. We've got, data analysts from a performance point of view in terms of stats and game trends and everything like that. So it's just we're so incredibly lucky and so well looked after, and we feel that we've got all the resources there to be the best that we could possibly be. It's a pretty incredible program and pretty well resourced. Yeah,
and obviously you had some great success there in 2018. Was that your first year at the club, the Premiership year? Or?
Yeah, 2018 was my first year at the club. So leading into that, my last year at Collingwood was 2018. They actually delisted me, which was a bit heartbreaking, but that's okay. Yeah. Happens to the best of us. No, but they delisted me. And look, to be honest, my whole a lot of my philosophies in life is everything happens for a reason. And so if I hadn't have been delisted by the Pies, I would never have wound up at Hawthorn. So ended up at Hawthorn in 2018, and they say the rest is history.
And do you think you started Collingwood's AFLW team? Is it going to be maybe something you add to the resume? Hawthorn's AFLW team could be something to initiate.
I feel like they're already an AFLW team and program in waiting. So I feel like it's going to be a big job, as it is, to get it going again. But I think the hard work's already done, the groundwork's done, the club is fully invested. There's a firm belief and understanding and everything from the club's point of view is that they get it. I mean, that's probably how I best describe it. They just get it. They understand what women's football is all about. They're all in, and I think it's an AFLW program ready to go. So just need to get that license and off they go. But I'd love to be involved in any capacity, and it's been a joy to be part of. Yeah,
and 250 games. Take us through what that milestone felt like to achieve.
Yeah, look, I'd always you never really sort of set your goal when you first started playing. I want to play this amount of games and I want to do this and this and this. Obviously, always the Premiership is the biggest driving motivating factor. But it sort of got to the end of the 2019 season, and I think I was sort of 10 or so games off, and then obviously we had that big shutdown last season where we didn't play a game, and so I thought, well, I'd really love to reach that milestone. For female footballers, it's pretty significant, given a lot of us, when we first started playing, we'd play 12, 13 games a season, and that was it. So to even reach 100 games in. To even reach 100 games in women's football is a pretty incredible amount of time you dedicate. So for me to get to that point I was really, really happy and really proud of, and it makes me I probably looked after myself well enough from a physical point of view to get to this point. So I'm one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, and how's it going this year? Obviously, a lockdown, so a bit of a bump in the road. But how's the team going? And your captain now is Lou, part of the leadership group. Take us through how the club's going and the team.
Look, we had a fair list turnover at the end of 2019 with a few retirements. A lot of our more senior players got drafted, which is incredible and so great for the club. The season this year hasn't gone as well as we'd hoped from a win point of view, but I think from a cultural and team development and also sort of building towards something that's bigger in terms of AFLW, it's been a real success, I feel. And the shutdown itself hasn't been great. We've got two games to go, so we're kind of waiting until we can play out. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to qualify for finals this year, but we'd like to be able to finish off our last two games of the season really, really well and set some new standards for years to come. Lou's still involved. She's not playing anymore. She's she's actually assistant coach, so she's a midfield coach now. So that's really, really great to still have her involved. And I think she's one of the best rucks I've ever seen play the game. So I think they're in good hands with the midfield, that's for sure.
We've got a couple of questions that have come through. Matt McLeish, good Hawthorn man. What's your dream situation for women's footy in 5 years from now?
Wow, Matty McLeish. My dream situation in 5 years' time is that every single AFL team has an AFLW team. So there's an 18-team AFLW competition. They all play each other at least once to make it fair and even. And that we see some of those games played on the MCG. That's probably in 5 years what I would hope to see achieved. And in 5 years' time, Hawthorn is winning an AFLW Premiership on the MCG. How's that, Matty?
It's a good dream. Let's make it a reality, hey?
Absolutely.
So 18 teams. So how many are there at the moment?
So we've got 4 teams to go. So
4 teams,
so Hawthorn, Essendon, Sydney and Port Adelaide to go, and that's it. So, not many to go. Hopefully it's in a few moments' time and we're in, so we just have to wait and see. When the AFL have said that it's going to happen, I'm pretty sure they've said by 2023 all teams will be in. So, or 24, I can't remember.
Yep.
It's not too far. We're hoping from a Hawthorn point of view it's sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. This one's in from Tori. What's your favourite cross training session outside of footy?
Hi Tori. Hi Tori. Nice of you to join in. Obviously, I'm involved from a business point of view, owning a BFT studio, bodyfit training studio in Ocean Grove, but I like doing that, but I also like getting out in the open, in the air, and going for bike rides, going for trail runs at Tori's farm. I do like getting out into the fresh air and enjoying it. So riding and surfing's good fun as well. But get into the gym as best as I can and do those sessions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for jumping on, Meg. Take us through what you're excited about for 2021. What's top of mind for you this year?
Yeah, 2021. Look, I'm excited by my dog just jumped over the the cord to my phone. I'm excited by seeing what women's football is going to look like over the next year or two, particularly. But for me, I decided to call time on my career, so I'm retiring at the end of this season. So really looking forward to it's a bit scary in terms of what's next, but looking forward to sort of finishing off with a bang and enjoying every moment that I can to play with the team that I'm playing with, the Mighty Hawks and the girls I'm playing with. So looking forward to that, but then looking forward to having a bit of time where I can enjoy some weekends and go surfing and spend a bit more time here with the business. So looking forward to being a spectator as well at some football. That'd be nice.
Yeah, okay. So you'll have a bit of a break. You won't go straight into coaching or?
No, probably at this stage I might have a bit of a break. I mean, it would really depend. It really depends on circumstances, I guess. So, I do enjoy coaching. I really do enjoy mentoring younger players, even older players as well, and help guiding them and to be the best that they can possibly be. So, I do enjoy doing that a lot. So it would be circumstantial, and it would depend on what it would look like as well. But there's definitely that passion there, and I love being involved in the game in whatever capacity I can, whether it's a spectator or from a coaching point of view. So.
And how much time do you fit for the coaching side of things for those interested that might want to work here in the off season? How does it work, and how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching. So it's a platform you can find online, one-on-one coaching. So it's just you just go on there and register your interest and book me in, and I can come out and do a one-on-one training session. So yeah, it's pretty easy. I basically just need to know what areas you want to work on, and also, as I said earlier, what your strengths are as well in terms of let's make them even better. So that's probably the main way of going about it.
Awesome. Well, we better wrap up and get ready for the game tonight. Thank you
I know,
so much for your time, and fingers crossed it's a good one. And
absolutely.
And hopefully this lockdown does snap up pretty quickly, so you can you play your last 2 games with the Hawks and get a couple of wins.
That'd be great. Thanks for having me, mate. I really appreciate it, and all the very best to everyone out there.
Awesome, Meg. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jack. See you soon.
If you enjoyed this episode and want even more, our Academy is for you. The Prepare Like a Pro Academy is a platform that hosts exclusive features and bonus content, such a Q&A segment aimed at getting to know the guests on a more personal level. Here's an example with Emily Meehan, head sports dietitian at the Collingwood Football Club.
What are things that fire you up?
Oh, this one is always, so I suppose it is, it'll be topical for most people, I think, but staying in your lane. And I often find that with nutrition, everyone eats, so everyone has an opinion. And I think that's what really gets me fired up, because so many people try and provide nutrition advice based on their N of 1 experience when they did intermittent fasting or keto or whatever it might be. And then
game changes,
game changes, whatever that might be. And look, it probably keeps me in a job, but that it does drive me insane, because sometimes the information can be so detrimental and opposite to what I've been working with my athlete or athletes, and and because they hear it on someone's socials or through a documentary, it unravels everything that I've been working with an athlete for.
Another feature of our Academy is the opportunity each week to join myself as co-host on the Prepare Like a Pro live chat show. Here's an example with Academy member Rama Davies as strength and conditioning coach at the Box Hill Hawks.
Welcome, Rama, to the chat. Rama has also worked at Box Hill, or currently he's working at Box Hill Hawks with us. Awesome. So he's another Box Hill man in the strength and conditioning department. So I'll handle it over to you, Rama, to ask your question, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Excellent. Thanks, Jack. And thanks Sam for the chat. It was I found it to be really insightful, plenty of gems in there, and I enjoyed it a lot. Mate, my question to you was, you spoke quite a bit about perspective during that chat, and I was wondering, what are some of the things that you either know or do physically that you wish you either knew or did back at the beginning of your career? What are some of those things?
Good question. So I suppose with perspective on life, that sort of point, it certainly has been massive for me now, and didn't probably have that as much when I was younger. I suppose one thing I might mention is gratitude. I spend a lot of my time doing a lot of gratitude exercises, listening to podcasts, doing a journal every day, just to say what I'm grateful for, sort of 3 things. And that's a fantastic way that I've been able to, like reset and just kind of gain that gratitude and perspective about, that there is more to life than football, or, might be whatever, as an S&C coach, if something's, you're having a hard time, it can be massive with just, opening your eyes a little bit and losing that sort of tunnel vision or being stuck in that work bubble. So that's been huge. I think I wish back then when I was younger, I asked more questions and was a bit more open to different things. I think I was a bit single-minded back then, and I thought there was one way of doing things. And if I kind of didn't have that fear of, asking a silly question or fear of judgment, it would have got me a lot further, and I probably would have learned a lot quicker. Being open to sort of different things, because you never know what you might find. It's just, there's so many people, like great people out there, knowledgeable people to learn off.
And there's plenty more where that came from. If you would like to learn more, then enter patreon.com/preparelikeapro or head to the link in our show notes. Thank you for listening to the Prepare Like a Pro podcast. If you like this episode, it'd be a massive help if you could like, follow, rate, give a review, or even share with your mates. The show is recorded in Melbourne, Australia. Be sure to follow our Instagram page for all updates on our latest and greatest. If you would like to get in touch to suggest a guest or advertise with the Prepare Like a Pro podcast, please email me at jack@preparelikeapro.com. Thanks so much for tuning in.